As you were walking, you would be forgiven for sort of picking up on a number of relatively sort of similar dimensions and axes, etc. And perhaps you saw it in the museum when you were walking through. But the very back page of your pamphlet, it shows a bit of the 1940s era subdivision that was platted in the Grand Plaza of Cahokia Mounds, and so then suddenly the specific patterns of trees, the crowns in the brome grass begin to take on a little bit more meaning. And so most of the trees you're seeing were front or backyard trees of the subdivision houses that were in the area. And then we were walking primarily along one of the causeways, which was really the crowned road of Park Place. This is the central portion of this place that we're calling the American Bottom. It's a term that archaeologists and historians use, but people that are living in St. Louis primarily call this area Metro East. So if you look around, if you sort of see the smokestacks on the horizon, that's Granite City, where everyone will be going tonight. If you look to the north, those are the refinery smokestacks where we were visiting yesterday, or at least many of us were visiting, where Standard Oil built one of their very first company towns in the American Bottom. I wanted us to come to this spot in some ways because, we're standing right here at one of these relatively unspectacular points in the American Bottom. There's so many of them that in terms of the sort of like visual registration of significance they register almost as boring. But this nose right here, where you have one canal coming in horizontally and another one that's coming in from the northeast, was part of the massive early 20th century drainage of the entire American Bottom. This was the corridor, and it's been bisected and straightened and abstracted by these canals, of the Canteen Creek, which was the primary waterway that linked the Cahokian complex with the Mississippi River. This is one of the intermediary canals, and so it goes and it sort of loops around, and then it hits one of the big levees, and in so many cases there's this pumped over or pumped under. But a lot of the other ones, they sort of like fan back out, and you have these floodways then, where the river in some ways during high water is able to in some ways back up, in some cases all the way to the bluff in really beautiful ways. And where failure usually occurs is not along the river, but it's in this intermediary in the middle of the floodplain zone, when you sort of have systemic flooding that's matched with local rainfall. And so you get breaches that happen like in the middle of the floodplain, and that's what happened in the big 93 flood that ended up breaching Valmeyer. This is, in some ways, the sort of westernmost edge of the sort of central Cahokia complex. This is the former Powell Mound. The landowners were looking to basically put their entire land under cultivation. But we're at this point now, I guess, where the story would have been pivoting a bit more towards the contemporary histories of the 20th century, some of the industrial towns, the production of the landfill, as well as some of the active and living communities in the American Bottom. In particular, the town of Fairmont City. But just in a sort of like side note, they began the excavation on the far side of the mound. This road here, Collinsville Road, was the sort of only real road in the area at the time, and so the steam excavator was doing its work outside of the sort of view of anyone that was passing by.